So obviously, to use night vision and be mobile with it and be hands-free with it, it's going to require some kind of method for keeping the night vision attached to your face or to your head. The most common form in doing so is going to be with either a bump helmet like this one here or a ballistic helmet. The nice thing about a helmet like this is it allows you to not only host the night vision, but host things like ear protection, admin lights, battery packs for keeping the night vision running longer. And so it's a really good solution for that. But the biggest problem with something like this is it doesn't protect your face if you're doing any kind of off-roading with your night vision. Night vision and off-roading is nothing new, guys. So people have been doing it for a very long time. The military's been doing it. And that's why you actually see a lot of dudes running bump helmets or ballistic helmets with mandibles. The problem I see with mandibles is they're not really meant for impact protection. They're mainly going to be meant for debris, things like rocks, sticks, things like that. So if you're really interested in doing any kind of off-roading with your night vision, depending on the vehicle that you're using, you may want to use something like this that's actually meant to protect your face. Insert the custom night vision dirt bike helmet. So for those of you who watched my previous video, you guys probably recognize this helmet. I built this out specifically for riding my electric Zero FX with my nods. So in today's video, we are gonna be going over this helmet and exactly what I did to it for off-roading with my night vision. Before we get into it, there's a few things that I want to preface. If you plan on doing this, do it at your own risk. You are literally drilling holes into a piece of safety equipment, especially something like this, like a dirt bike helmet or a street bike helmet. These have like safety features built into them, and there's certain safety ratings and regulations that go into this type of stuff. And so keep in mind, you might be compromising the safety of the helmet, so do it at your own risk. Starting with the helmet, what I have here is a Fox V1. The nice thing about this helmet is it's inexpensive and it's very simple. There's a lot of helmets out there that have a lot of bells and whistles attached to them, and I didn't really want all that. I wanted something that was just a simple helmet that I could throw my goggles on and just go rip around with. So you can get these for about 100 bucks on Amazon. I think I bought mine on Amazon, and they've gone through a few different variations over the years, but you really can't go wrong with this helmet. Moving on from the helmet, I have a night vision shroud. Now, there's a few different shroud options on the market. The one that I use is made by Wilcox. They're obviously a pretty big company when it comes to night vision. But one of the things to keep in mind with pretty much any of the night vision shrouds out there is they're designed for helmets that are sitting a little bit lower on your head. Dirt bike helmets, they kind of sit a little bit higher up, so your mileage may vary as far as like the angle of the shroud. A lot of these shrouds come with hardware. If you are attaching it to a dirt bike helmet, the hardware may not work. I actually did not use any of the hardware that was included with the Wilcox shroud. What I did is I bought 3 different length bolts, washers, and nuts, and I actually went ahead and just tested them, and I found a set that worked fine. If you do have to go the route of getting your own hardware, be mindful of the length. You don't want hardware sticking out on the inside of the helmet to give you a night vision lobotomy. That's probably not a good idea. And so make sure it's sized appropriately for the helmet, and make sure it's not like poking through and it's gonna stab you in the head. That would be bad. The other thing to keep in mind with my setup specifically, the night vision shroud has 3 mounting location holes, and they just so happen to perfectly line up with the vents that are built into the helmet. This was kind of a good thing and also kind of a bad thing at the same time. It was a bad thing because, well, I had to get a little bit more creative in mounting the shroud to the helmet, but it was a good thing because I didn't actually have to drill through any of the plastic material of the helmet. I was able to just go ahead and drill through the mesh material and cut out some of the foam on the inside of the helmet. I use washers on the inside of the vents in between the foam and the plastic material, so it kind of works like M-LOK, and it's extremely sturdy. I actually didn't even need to use the top mounting location. And I've used this helmet pretty extensively, and it has not moved on me at all. So that's the shroud that I used. As far as the night vision mount, I just used a basic G24. One thing to note with this shroud and this helmet setup and the G24 is I did pretty much have to keep this completely maxed out for it to line up with my eyes. Again, this is going to vary depending on your head size, depending on the helmet size, and depending on your eyes. But for me, I had to pretty much max this out and lower it all the way, and I had to angle it all the way. So it really will depend on your setup if you plan on doing this yourself. All right, let's talk about the night vision a little bit. So if you saw my previous video, you know that I'm using a set of RPMVGs. These are basically just panning RMVGs. And they're really cool because they give you a little bit more field of view than standard night vision. Standard dual tubes give you a field of view of 40 degrees. These give you 65 degrees, which, trust me, it makes a huge difference if you are doing any kind of off-roading. The last thing you want is to slam into trees and branches, and this actually helps a lot in providing more peripheral vision. And so when I have this mounted to my G24, obviously there's a good bit of wobble, as you can see here. And so it's gonna be really important to have some kind of retention system. What I have on the back is a T-Rex Arms SBL lanyard. I think these are pretty cool because they're just kind of universal. It's just a chem cell holder with some bungee and some little mini carabiner clips. And so the way I routed this is I just put some Velcro on the back of the helmet. I have a metal counterweight. This is like a lead counterweight that a buddy let me borrow. I haven't returned it yet. And then the way I actually just routed this is I routed it through the visor itself, and I have it attached to each lanyard spot on the night vision. Once the lanyard is actually attached to the night vision, there's really no movement at all. So this is gonna be important for illuminating some of the slop, but it's also going to be important for keeping the night vision retained just in case you do hit something and it somehow breaks your mount, which is unlikely, but if it does break the mount or the night vision does come off of the mount, having something that keeps it attached to your helmet is gonna be extremely helpful. Night vision is not cheap, guys, so having retention is going to be pretty much a must-have. And as I mentioned earlier, I do have a counterweight back here. You are pretty much going to need a counterweight unless you have a super light night vision setup. Having a counterweight is going to help keep the night vision balanced and keep from straining your neck too much. One way to tell if the helmet is balanced is you just put the helmet on your fist, and if it leans forward, it's balanced too much in the front. If it leans back, it's balanced too much in the back. So as you can see, I kind of have this helmet balanced fairly well. It could probably use a little bit more weight in the back. And one thing that I could do here is I probably will in the future is add some kind of battery pack, which will add a little bit of weight and also give me more runtime on the night vision. Moving on from there, I have an IR strobe. This is not whatever the name brand IR strobe is. I forget who makes it. Was it Hellstar or something? This is like a Chinese Amazon knockoff. I've had this for like 3 or 4 years now, and it seems to work really well. I've used it in the rain, and if it breaks, I'll buy another one. It's like 30 bucks. So I have a strobe on here just in case I need to illuminate myself for other people while wearing night vision, or even illuminate myself for people who aren't wearing night vision. So another thing to note with this setup, and this is gonna apply to any helmet that has a visor, is the visor does kind of get in the way. You may be wondering, well, why didn't you leave off the visor? That's because the visor looks cool, man. The visor looks super cool, so I left it on there. It's also kind of a pain in the butt, so you may want to take it off. You can take off the visor if you really want to. It's just 2 little thumb screws. But the night vision does fit with the visor. You do kind of have to like karate chop your hand underneath the visor to flip up the night vision. But honestly, it's not bad. It wasn't a big deal for me, and I was using the night vision quite a bit and putting it back down and stowing it back up. So it's not a huge deal for me, and it looks cool. So. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the big benefits with something like a bump helmet or a ballistic helmet is the ability to mount comms or other devices to the helmet. And so that's gonna be no different with a dirt bike helmet. I don't have traditional comms on here, meaning I'm not running like a push to talk or anything like that, but I do have a form of comms on my helmet, and I keep this on my helmet no matter what, whether I'm using night vision or not. This is a Cardo, I believe it's the Pack Talk Edge, and this comm system utilizes mesh, and so it allows you to talk to other riders who have the same system. You can also Bluetooth it to your phone, and you could Bluetooth it to a radio if you really wanted to, but this does provide me some form of communication while I'm wearing the helmet, because obviously, like, I can't put my phone up to my ear. This just allows me to have some form of comms. It basically is just this little piece that mounts to the side of the helmet, and then it has nice JBL speakers that mount on the inside with a little mic. So that's been on there for a while. I would honestly have this regardless of the night vision. Having some form of communication in a helmet is really, really handy. So the next thing that I have on the helmet are goggles. Goggles are gonna be pretty important, especially for helmets like this that are open-faced, unlike, you know, a street bike helmet. This is just gonna protect your eyes from the wind or from debris or whatever it may be. And they do work pretty well with night vision. I didn't run into any issues. I didn't notice any kind of issues with clarity or anything like that. It works perfectly fine with goggles. So I always keep goggles on my helmet. If I'm running goggles during the day, I have tinted ones. If I'm running them at night, I have clears. Obviously, I'm gonna run clears with my night vision. The next thing that I currently have on this helmet that I did not have in my dirt bike night vision video is this little wind protector. As I mentioned earlier, this helmet does not have a ton of bells and whistles. It has pretty much open vents all over the place. There's no way to close these vents, unlike a helmet like this that actually has vent openings that you can open and close. This helmet is pretty basic. Fox actually makes a pretty cool kit that allows you to winterize this setup. And part of the reason they make that is because people not only use these for dirt bikes, they use them for like snowmobiles and stuff too. This kit includes this little mask piece that just sits in between your goggles and the face of the helmet. It basically is just gonna cover up the gap and allow for less air to cut through, and it's gonna insulate your face a little bit better. The other thing that this kit includes, which I'm not gonna take out, this kit includes another insulating piece that goes in between the headliner and the foam of the helmet. So I highly recommend if you get a helmet like this and you plan on using it in the winter, they do make a winter kit, which makes this helmet a lot more bearable in the colder months. So that pretty much wraps up and summarizes the night vision dirt bike lobotomy build. This thing has been awesome for me. I've spent probably 50, 60 miles riding around in the dark with this specific setup, and it's been excellent. Now, something to keep in mind, like I said earlier, it's very much gonna depend on the helmet size, it's gonna depend on your eyes, it's gonna depend on the type of helmet, as far as if this setup will actually work for you. But one thing I will recommend if you plan on doing this is going ahead and just buying a second helmet. I plan on buying this exact same helmet since it's only like $100 on Amazon to use just for daytime riding. The last thing you want is to have something like this, have it modified for your night vision, be riding on the road or something, get into a serious accident and like really hurt yourself. But I am very confident that this will always be safer than this when it comes to doing any kind of off-roading. I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you guys like this type of content, go ahead and leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. If you guys have any other ideas on things you want to see, also leave that in the comments. I'd love to hear about it and get some recommendations. The best way to support the channel is by hitting up the website, makeitmobileco.com. And there are gonna be a ton of t-shirts and all kinds of merch on there and cool designs. There's gonna be a lot more designs coming. So the other cool thing about the website is gonna be the build section. The build section is where I'm gonna keep all my detailed write-ups on things like bike builds, truck builds, any kind of vehicle build that you may see in some of my videos, maybe even helmet builds. And I'm gonna have links for all the items that I put into those specific things. So definitely worth checking out. Guys, I appreciate it. I appreciate you watching. Until next time, make it mobile.